We are back with Am I Live? How's
Jay,
it?
am I live?
Am I live? Oh my God. That was a good one. Zing, got me. I was like, wait, are we on the wrong show? Where am I supposed to be today? So welcome back to Am I Live, daily nutrition talk show where we try to make your fitness and nutrition, fitness and dieting, whatever you want to call it, sustainable, realistic, and achievable. I am Jay. With me, as always, is the amazingly handsome Dr. Brad Dieter. I think this is the first time you've looked older than me.
Yeah, I think that's probably true.
Yeah, no, shaving. My hair is from being out in the sun with horses. My hair is turning a nice blonde color versus dark brown. I'm getting bleached out, Brad.
You got that summer beach life.
Yeah, yeah.
Summer horse life.
Except I'm landlocked, so there's no.
Yeah,
I haven't seen an open body of water in like a year. So, well,
I guess that's true. Although the Great Lakes are basically an ocean.
Yeah, but I mean, I haven't been to a great seen Lake Michigan in
many moons.
A year, yeah. So
you're crazy.
Yeah, I saw a pool at the Wisconsin Dells over winter. If that counts.
Well, that's sweet.
That's kind of like a body of water. Anyways, guys, we are going to jump into our topics. If you have questions while we're talking, just feel free to ask them. If you are listening on the podcast and want to catch one of our live shows, just macrosinc.net/YouTube, and that'll take you right to it. Or you can go right to macrosinc.net/free group. Join the Facebook group with 170,000 people in it, I think now. And you can watch them live there. If you're watching live and want to catch these on the podcast, macrosinc.net/podcast. And those are about a week delayed on the upload, but you can take them with you anywhere and it doesn't kill all your data. And you can listen in your car and hear my amazing radio voice. And
I have to upload another episode today.
We can talk about smooth jazz all day.
No. Oh my God.
No.
I feel like you were born like 2 decades too late.
Yeah, I'd be the best smooth jazz DJ.
You would have been a great like Elvis Duran in the morning type of DJ.
Oh my God, there's a name that like nobody alive knows, and I'm not sure how I know it, but I know exactly what it is. I think I would have been like the smooth jazz Casey Kasem.
That's probably true.
Yeah, we got some good tunes for all you hip cats out there. Let's keep it going.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Hey, I had a radio show before. WDGC 88.3 FM, Downers Grove. All right.
Well, before we devolve into Jay just giving us all of his DJ snippets, let's dive into topic numero uno.
All right. So continuing on with our macros 101 topic that we had on our last episode, where we discussed calories and what different macros are. We're going to jump into food quality versus quantity. So for anybody who does know this, remember that not everybody does. It's a good refresher for people who do. And hey, we review these topics pretty often, so they stay on top of your mind. So that being said, food quality and quantity, which is, so let's first define, I think, each food quality and quantity. So Brad, which one do you want to define? You define quality.
Yeah, so food quality, if I had to define it, is regarding the intrinsic properties of food that are independent of the energy content.
Okay.
So that would include things like the amount of macronutrients in them, the amount of fiber in them.
And
did I say micronutrients, excuse me. Did I say macro?
Yeah.
God. The amount and type of micronutrients, fiber, their satiety, what kind of other health promoting compounds like bioflavonoids, some of those like phytochemicals, those sorts of things. And then, sometimes like the palatability, how full they make you feel, like those types of things are what I would consider fall under the food quality umbrella.
Yeah, I would say macronutrients you could probably put that into quality as well for macro.
Yeah, you could. I would say
it
maybe
kind of goes both.
Yeah, probably like the energy density of something you could include it in the food quality matrix.
Yeah, and I would put in, protein is quality versus quantity.
Yeah.
So amount of protein, but having protein itself. So, and then quantity is obviously just going to be the amount of food, of overall food, amount of calories or macronutrients that you're actually eating. And you can get into quantity of micronutrients and stuff, but in the big picture, It's about the amount of food, amount serving sizes, your macro. I would also put your macro breakdown, your division of where your partitioning of where your calories are going in there. But for overall weight loss, and we typically in the media, in general conversation, popular diet systems, they seem to always put the emphasis is on, and in casual conversations, I have to eat healthier. We always seem to put this emphasis on, for weight loss, on quality. It always appears that it's quality over quantity. You see a lot of books over that. You see, something you were talking about on Morning Joe this morning is the CrossFit, the CrossFit nutrition thing that's kind of come out. And there's a debate. Seem to be bringing back up the sugar, carbohydrate, insulin response model that's kind of been debunked. And that's putting emphasis on quality again for what most people would assume is weight loss. Now, it might have a little bit of effect on performance, which might be a CrossFit thing, but I think they're also taking the wrong way on that for performance. But where do you agree that there's this emphasis on quality, and not saying it's right or wrong yet, just a overall in society, there's an emphasis on quality, food quality, when people talk about weight loss?
I would say that's very accurate.
Okay.
Yeah, I think a lot of people use the moniker of start eating healthy. And I think we generally default to think that means food quality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then do you think that it's for weight loss, which is let's emphasize weight loss. And we emphasize weight loss because what is weight loss? Being at a healthy body weight correlates to being overall healthy, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, there's strong evidence for that. The more overweight you are, the more likely you are for what's the word I'm looking for here? The more overweight you are, the more likely you are to have chronic illnesses, chronic diseases. So being at a healthy body weight, like how strongly does that correlate, being at a healthy body weight, to reducing overall disease?
Very strongly. So we do know that, I mean, there's a few ways to look at it. Let's just say you have average weight as like the reference level, right? Like a normal body weight. As you increase BMI, your risk of diabetes, cardiovascular disease, kidney disease, some forms of cancer, hypertension, all of those things increase. Now, the actual risk itself gets mitigated a little bit by if you have a high BMI and a low body fat. Or some people have kind of what we'll call a metabolically healthy obesity, right? You have a high BMI, but your blood markers aren't elevated. Now, those people have a less severe increased risk, but they still do show an increased risk.
Okay. Perfect. So that adds up to everything that I was just saying. So we went deeper into it. And then with regards to weight loss, where does the evidence lie? Is it in food quality or the quantity of food we're eating that equates to long-term successful weight loss or any weight loss?
My view on this is that it's both. They both matter. And they matter for different reasons. One is, we know that the quantity in terms of the caloric content of the food and your calorie balance is the mechanism by which you lose weight, gain weight, sustain weight loss, sustain weight gain, right? It's incontrovertible that that's the truth. Mm-hmm. Now, the food quality that you can consume can dictate how many calories you consume in a day, right? There's been several research studies, observational studies, cohort-based studies. There's been interventional studies. There've been mechanistic studies, kind of all the layers of evidence that the higher food quality you have, meaning, the less processed food, the higher fiber food, the higher micronutrient food, the higher protein content food that you consume, generally all equate to lower caloric intake, and better long-term sustainability of a diet.
Pardon me. So if you have, I agree with you that both matter. If you had to put an emphasis on one, and not necessarily this is the end all be all, but when you have somebody who's 200 pounds or let's go 100 pounds overweight, and you say, okay, well, we're going to not only restrict the amount of food you're eating, the quantity, we're going to restrict the quality, and we're going to put you on this vegetable, chicken, broccoli diet. It just is a long-term, in my opinion, and I think you agree, and I think the evidence supports it too. It's a long-term, it's a disaster. It's a recipe for immediate disaster, really. It's just not sustainable. They might be able to do it for a couple of weeks, but they fall off the hinges because it's too big of a lifestyle change immediately.
Yeah. So I think when we look at kind of the dieting literature, there's kind of two independent things there. One is, we know that the more rigid and structured a dietary approach is, the more difficult it is to adhere long term. The other piece to that is the skills you build from adopting a very strict diet are pretty minimal, right? Like if somebody's like, hey, you can just eat chicken, broccoli, and brown rice, it's like you don't really learn anything about what you're doing. You just follow a prescription. So that's one thing. The other side of the coin is we do know that early initial weight loss, like substantial early weight loss, generally predicts better long-term outcomes than if you don't lose any weight in the first week or two, because you're making very slow changes. So you do need some form of early wins in weight loss to translate to better long-term ones. So that's why a lot of times, like when we coach our clients, we'll actually be a little more aggressive out of the gate than we might normally be, because we know that early initial results typically translate to better long-term outcomes.
Yeah, and I've had clients where I'll start my deficit higher than I would like it to be, just to get that, because one, you're excited, you're going to be a little more compliant, you can tolerate a little bit more. So for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, might put them in a little higher deficit than I normally would, and then as we get results, or if and sometimes they do great on it, you can keep them in that for a while. But if they all of a sudden start to lose weight and they're doing good, and they say, you know what, this is getting a little hungry, hey, let's add in some calories again, we'll slow the rate, but we're going to do good, and you might keep that rate up, or it might slow down just a little. But yeah, it definitely increases the sustainability of the diet and the long-term success, because they've gotten the results, they know it works, and a lot of people are willing to kick it up even more after they get those initial results.
Yeah, and sometimes you just have to have that conversation with them.
Yeah, agreed. And so with quantity and quality, one of the things that I know you and I have it in my notes, it's from 2016, you and I talking about it in a group.
Time ago. I was a different person. Whatever I said, I cannot be held to the fire on that.
You said Jay is the most handsome guy alive, and he's probably the smartest human being I've ever had the pleasure of speaking to.
I mean, that's probably still true.
Okay, perfect. So we had said, I had actually posted I had posted a comment in a Facebook group, and you had actually replied, and you had said, you had said, look at this, an actual intelligent comment in this thread. And I think that was one of our first interactions about nutrition. And
that sounds like a comment I would make in my petulant youth.
In your petulant youth, that was 4 years ago. In your
I know, I was 28.
In your 20s, yeah. I mean, just a rebel. I was wise into my 30s already, so it, matches. But I had said that I would take the thread was about food quality versus quantity, and the argument was that you can't, you shouldn't eat, you should only eat quote unquote clean foods. It was all about a clean food thread. So you should only eat minimally processed, whole nutritious foods, nothing processed. No, you shouldn't have anything like candy. There should be no pizza, no Snickers, no anything like that. And I said, and that will automatically bring you to a healthy body weight. And I said, it's not true. You should have a mixed, varied diet. You can have, treats and things like that. But I personally would put, you can gain weight off of eating too many vegetables. If I eat 5,000 calories of broccoli, I'm going to get fat. I'll probably blow up from the gas that I'm building up inside of me, but I would absolutely don't shake your head at me, Brad. That was a good one. But
I'm shaking my head at my little dog over here.
Oh.
Did you hear him? He lost his bone under my bookcase and he's losing his mind.
Poor dog. So, but you can gain weight off. If you eat 5,000 calories in vegetables, you're going to gain weight. If I eat 800 calories a day in Twinkies, I'm going to lose weight. And if I have somebody, I would take the healthy body weight person at 800 calories a day would be in overall better health than the 100-pound overweight person eating 5,000 calories of vegetables a day. And then once we get down to I would pick the healthy body weight person for being, outside of genetic issues, being the healthier person all day. But once you get down to that body weight, now let's start shifting more and more and more towards quality to be able to maintain that and improve overall health. Do you still agree with that statement?
Yeah, I would say as a general rule, that's very true, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we just know that your level of adiposity and the distribution of that adiposity is one of, if not the largest predictor of long-term chronic disease.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of weird genetic stuff or just kind of very special cases, in general, it's the adiposity itself that carries most of the risk.
I like that, adiposity. You don't hear that word spoken very much.
I like that word.
Yeah, it's like the word plethora. Plethora and copious are two of my favorite words.
Copious is good.
Yeah, you don't hear it outside of medicine very often. I also like bolus. I heard somebody say once you give somebody a protein bolus, and I only heard bolus in medicine before, like a bolus of IV fluid, and then they said protein bolus, and it just became one of my favorite things again.
Can I have a bolus of cash?
Yes, I'll inject it right into you. So I think that if somebody's looking for more on this food quality versus quantity, they say, how do I find that balance where I'm going to lose weight? Because eventually, you should have, I think in all things, have one primary focus and then a secondary goal. And in my opinion, if your goal is weight loss, your primary goal should be quantity and your secondary goal should be quality. And then at some point, once you hit your fitness goals, we should always, the entire weight loss time, you should be switching and let's say switch a little bit here, a little bit of a percentage, 1% a day, 1% a week, whatever of your focus should switch over to quality. Is there a specific time when you say like, all right, switch over to quality? Like, is there a blanket statement or it's just an ongoing process?
It's an ongoing process. And I think for a lot of people, it's never unidirectional, right? So people will be like, hey, I'm going to, stop tracking my food and focus more on food quality for a while. And then they'll come back to tracking their food. It'll kind of ebb and flow as you go, over the course of your life.
Yeah, agreed. An ebb and flow. That's another good term that you don't hear very often.
Yeah, I have to go grab this thing. This dog's driving me absolutely insane.
All right, I will keep talking. And I muted my own mic instead of Brad's. So going on with this, if anybody out there is looking for a way to help navigate this food quality versus quantity issue, if you're wondering, what exactly does quality mean? Is it only fruits and vegetables? Does lean meat fall under that? Is beef jerky, is that high quality protein? Does protein powder count? Head on over to macrosinc.net. We have a 2-week free trial. You can go to macrosinc.net/services or just macrosinc.net. Get a 2-week free trial. Sit down, have a consult with a coach. Let us help you get guided through this process. It's not, once you've been doing this for a little while, you're like, oh, well, this is pretty simple. I got it. And we want you to be on your own. We do not want we have clients who stick around for a very long time. They have new goals. They have new things to navigate that we're guiding them through. But the overall goal, if your goal is weight loss, once you have the knowledge base, which takes about 3 months of coaching, weekly check-ins with your coach. And most of our clients are on their own. And they're successful. We don't want people to stick around forever. As much as we love every one of our clients, it'd be much easier for us if everybody just never left. But learn to navigate this on your own. Learn what everything means. Learn how to make these decisions. Macrosinc.net, 2-week free trial. book an appointment with a coach, chat, see how it all goes. All right. Did you get your muke? Your muke is still mited, I said. You got your dog bone figured out?
Yes.
Okay.
Did you notice that when I sat back down and tried to put my headphones on, I hit myself in the face with them?
No, I didn't, but now I'm going to have to watch the replay because that's
Awesome. The cord was wrapped around the chair leg because it's like a long headphone cord, and I went to sit down. I just wow! I was like, oh crap!
fantastic. I cannot get used to looking at myself without a beard yet. It's so weird.
You're weird.
All right, we got some questions.
Yeah.
Oh, Dante.
Coke.
Oh my God. I'll mail it to you. Dante said, good vibes. Coach Aesthetics, who is one of our regular viewers, said, hello, Bradser and Jay. What's your opinion of mustard oil and the usuric acid controversy? I haven't heard this. I have no idea what this is.
You know what that ERUCIC? It's probably erucic.
Erucic?
You know what that reminds me of?
No.
Have you ever played Street Fighter?
Yeah.
Hadouken! When
Oh my
when
God.
Ryu shoots his little fireball. I feel like that's what that sounds like.
Oh my God. Welcome to MI Live, where we talk about 90s video game pop culture references.
Dude, when was Street Fighter released?
I'll go
Street
1993.
Fighter release date. When was it? Ooh, the first one, which was not the best one, 1987. The second
Wow.
one, Street Fighter 2, which was the best one, 1991.
Oh, I was still way off.
Samsonite. I was way off.
Oh my God. All right, Brad, do you have an opinion on this? Because I have. He also said, as far as I've read, there's no research that I can find on humans showing any negative effects from consumption of mustard oil on any health markers.
I have no idea. I mean, I've read a lot of biomarker papers. I've read a lot of different fatty acid consumptions and biomarkers. I've reviewed probably 40 or 50 papers for journals on that stuff, and I have no idea. I just have not come across it.
Nope. So sorry.
My guess is if that's the case, there's probably not much to it. I'd have to look into it more.
All right. And then last question from him. Do you prefer a reverse dieting approach or a diet break to straight away isocaloric? Do you prefer a reverse dieting approach or a diet break to straight away isocaloric phase after 12 to 20 weeks of hypocaloric? So do you prefer going right back into maintenance calories after a long dieting phase, or do you prefer slowly ramping them back up?
Both.
Right. Yeah, it depends, I think.
And I think it depends mostly on the psychology of the client.
Mhm.
One of the things that I think people don't think about, especially this is one of the big parts of coaching that, as somebody who's got, a lot of experience under their belt starts to realize is when somebody loses a substantial or meaningful amount of weight, the lowest number they hit is not a real number, right? It's that nadir is, some of it's artificial, right? You're probably a little glycogen depleted. You're probably a little dehydrated. It's probably your morning weight. Like the lowest weight you'll ever see on the scale from a diet is not your actual true body weight, right? It's kind of this false low number. So when people jump straight back to maintenance, they're probably going to see a couple pound uptick in the scale. And it's generally just from being more hydrated and having more muscle glycogen, right? So now that if you reverse diet, so you kind of reverse dieting is basically just like slowly ramping calories back up. And sometimes it's kind of past previous maintenance, just depends on what you're doing. But so if you can convince them like, hey, you just broke this barrier, your new body weight low is 129 pounds on the scale, but your true like actual homeostatic regular low body weight is probably 131 and a half. So when we go right back to maintenance, you're probably going to see that 131 and a half, somewhere in that range in the first, 5-6 days. That's normal, right? You're basically just filling up the gas tank in your car. Don't let that psychologically get to you. Now, a lot of people will be like, I can't handle that. Like this number was my mental victory and I can't do it. So you kind of have to slowly add calories in. And sometimes their weight will stabilize, at a little bit lower number, but usually just kind of that normal number anyway. But they get a few weeks to kind of let their brain accumulate to it. So it kind of really depends, at least from my perspective, on the psychology of your client. Now, ideally, I'd like to get them back to maintenance as fast as possible. Just from a lot of physiological perspectives, I think it makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, I agree. It 100% depends on the client. I want to get them back to maintenance as fast as possible. I also think it depends on what's first off, how lean are they? Is this a competitor who's down to 6%, 5% body fat that, you're going to notice, and again, it's the psychological aspect from it. They're going to notice putting on 3 pounds, and they're going to notice the water retention that comes with that. I'm going to have to take that slow, because otherwise they're going to say, well, I'm already gaining weight, YOLO, and just go off the rails. Is this somebody who you've dieted for 20 weeks, you've lost 40 pounds, and we still have 50 more to go, so we're taking a 2-week diet break? If that's the case, I'm putting you at maintenance immediately. I'm not working you back up. Is this a 102 pound female who dieted from 115, and she's 5 feet tall, and we have to, she can maintain her body weight on 1,000 calories? Well, that's not great. I'm going to jump up to maintenance immediately, and then slowly, probably week by week or every other week, add in more calories to see what we can get away with, to see how much she can adapt to. So it really depends. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer to it, though. I do think somebody asked what reverse dieting was, and Brad, obviously you talked about that, but I think it's important to note, to mention that I think there's 2 definitions to reverse dieting. There's the original one, which is the one we're talking about, which is slowly, it's dieting in reverse, slowly adding in calories to either gain or maintain your weight to either maintain your weight or gain weight at a very regulated pace. And you're going to increase your non-exercise activity, your exercise activity, and you might be able to increase. I've had clients who have increased 500 calories from, we're maintaining on 1,500 calories. I've gotten up to 2,000 calories and without gaining weight. But there was this, I think it got twisted a lot and turned around and turned into this. Well, we can just, if you add in 20 calories a week, every week for the rest of your life, you're just going to maintain that. And I think it just got twisted and messed up.
Just abused.
Yeah. It was a good idea in the beginning, and then it just got torn apart. Somebody from our Facebook group said this might be a dumb question. There are no dumb questions, but when it comes to quantity, would you be better off overeating proteins versus carbs? I know you shouldn't overeat, but hey, it happens. That is not a dumb question. That is actually one of the very first questions that I had when I started tracking my calories, and people actually told me that I was stupid for asking it. But I think it's an absolutely fantastic question because it makes sense, because shit happens, right? So Brad, I'll have
Forrest Gump quote.
It does. See, that's all I was doing, quoting amazing movies. I would say overeat on lean protein if you're going to overeat. One of my things, if I'm starving and I'm maxed out, you could have a protein shake. I will throw shrimp on the I will grill shrimp or something, or even have cooked cold shrimp, whatever. I will have deli meat, anything like that. Even just plain chicken breast. Something to keep me full. It's protein, and it's better. In my opinion, it's better than going over on carbs, because there's evidence that you won't gain body fat from that. Brad?
Yes. So I 100% agree with you, and I'm trying to find. Do you hear my dogs in the background? They're about to go away for forever.
Yeah, I got 2 dogs that can join them.
So I'm gonna share a screen share here, so people can take a look at this. Can you see this? So this table right here, this is the efficiency of macronutrient storage. So this was some research that was done in the 1980s, and then a guy named Blackster kind of compiled a lot of it in a review paper. But basically, this is a graph that actually shows, like, if you consume a dietary substrate and having it get stored as something. So if you look at, like, they asked the question of, should I overeat on protein versus carbs? So carbohydrates, when they're overconsumed and they're stored as body fat, their estimated efficiency is 0.8. Protein being stored as body fat is 0.6. So it's substantially less efficient. Fat, obviously being stored as body fat, is incredibly efficient, especially even compared to carbohydrates and proteins.
It was interesting. I don't think I think I have seen that, but not in a lot. Is that on what is that in the NutriWiki?
Yep, macrosync.net/nutriwiki/the-truth-about-high-fat-diets. Let me just put that in the banner.
I know where I read that at. That was when I read it when it was on Science Driven Nutrition.
It was.
And that's where I read it. I was like, man, that looks really familiar. Where did I read that before? I read that
boom
a couple years ago. You want to paste that into the comments too?
Darn right I will.
Okay. So for anybody watching at home, just go to NutriWiki or anybody listening on the podcast, you can go to NutriWiki.org and just search for the truth about high-fat diets. Or macrosync.net and go to and search it on there too. But it's an article Brad wrote, shows that little graph that he was just talking about, and it explains how efficient we are at storing different macronutrients, be it carbs, fats, or protein. Just to reiterate, Brad, for anybody who couldn't see it or is listening, we are most efficient at storing fats, then carbs, and the least efficient at storing protein.
Yep. And that article has 8 claims about high-fat diets that are reviewed, and they look at the scientific literature.
Actually, aren't we the least efficient at storing alcohol?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just going to have alcohol and it's calorie free, right?
No.
Well, that doesn't fit my agenda. So change the science for me, please.
Done.
Okay. Let's see. Somebody in our Facebook group said, I already have an excellent personal trainer at my gym who encourages me to keep taking protein, but I wonder if getting a nutrition coach would help me reach my goals better or quicker.
The answer is yes. And it's funny because we actually had this discussion yesterday in one of our meetings. We have clients sometimes who ask why we don't offer just training coaching. And we just believe that the nutrition piece is such a big part of results, especially on the weight loss side. Also with the muscle building side, that we want to make sure that people are armed with everything they need to succeed. So nutrition coaching is the foundation of what we do.
Yeah. And it's definitely something we do have a lot of clients who have in-person personal trainer and then work with us for their nutrition. We actually have clients who work with us for their training, and then sometimes, even if they're not used to lifting, I think this was one of the most interesting things when we started coaching online. When I started coaching online, people who were not used to lifting, who wanted to lift, but they were nervous, they'd sign up for training coaching with us, and they had no idea how to do any of the exercises. So what we would do is give them their program, have them go to the gym, talk to the trainer, and say, "Listen, I just need two sessions. I need to learn how to do these exercises." And I'll say I did that over 100 times in a year with clients, and I never had one client who had a no from a gym, and they never had an issue with it. So yeah, I think that's something to look at too. All right, we have Ambra. Good morning from Italy. Bon
Primorgio. Something like that.
Buongiorno. I'll just say
Primorgio.
Let's see. Do you accept individuals writing for your blog? I would love to write about the subject, as in the European Union, you say mustard oil is still banned for human consumption.
I do. Send me an email at brad.dieter@macrosync.net. I think I have 4 blog articles I have to edit today.
If something's banned, it's probably good.
So I did look this up while we were talking. This is from Wikipedia because it was just the fastest way to get some information. So I have not vetted any of this. But it says mustard oil has high levels of both alpha linoleic acid, which is I always mess these up. Linoleic acid. I think that's a omega-3. That's an omega-6.
Oh, is it really?
So linoleic is an omega-3. Linolenic is or alpha linoleic acid is a omega-6. Alpha linolenic acid is a short chain omega-3. So sounds like mustard oil is it has erase everything I just said. Mustard oil has high levels of alpha linolenic acid, which is a short chain omega 3. Like that's the omega 3 that you find in flaxseed. And uricic acid, ERUCIC. It says that is a monounsaturated omega 9 fatty acid, denoted 22,1 omega 9. It has the chemical formula. Blah, 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 blah.
Can you repeat that chemical name real quick?
Blah, 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 blah. The chemical formula is CH3, CH27, CH double bond, CH, CH211, COOH. It says studies done on rats in the early 1970s found that uricic acid has toxic effects on the heart at high enough doses. However, more recent research has cast doubt on the relevance of rat studies to the human health of uricic acid. Rats are unusual in their ability to process this acid, and symptoms in rats caused by a diet with high levels of it has not been observed in pigs, primates, or other animals. No negative health effects of any exposure to uricic acid have been documented in humans. Nevertheless, publications of these studies led to governments worldwide moving away from oils with high levels of uricic acid. Mustard oil is not allowed to be imported or sold in the U.S. for use in cooking, except for those products with exceptionally low uricic acid content. Yeah, so Coach Aesthetics, definitely shoot me an email, brad.dieter@macrozik.net. I had to say.
That was like the that was the fastest mic mute I've ever seen. I can't get that fast.
Did you catch any of the sneeze in there?
No, that was perfect. It was just you like rocking your head back and forth. I was laughing when you were talking because that sound you made when you said the chemical name, whatever sound that was. I cannot do that, and I would just spit all over my microphone. I don't. My wife, Lisa, will do that too. She'll make weird sounds all the time, and like me and you used to play a game, make this sound.
Yes.
And I can't do it because I can't make sounds. Like right now, here I have a wrapper for a protein bar. Brad, make this sound. That's my favorite game in the world.
I'm so glad this gives you so much.
Yeah, this, I've been up since like 4:30, so you need something.
So I've been dealing with angry emails since 4:30.
Well, you've been sending the angry emails since 4:30. That doesn't count.
That's not true. I rarely send angry emails.
So they just all go to me? Is that what it is?
I don't think I've ever sent.
Or do you just forget that you have caps lock on all the time?
I think I just forget I have caps lock.
Sarah said it's 100% the psychological effects of losing weight and dieting. It's so much harder to deal with than the physical aspect. I agree. For a lot of people, that is 100%
facts.
For most people, that's the facts. And that is it. People just said thank you. You are all welcome. Let's jump into our set. Oh, do we have another comment? I'm impressed by Wikipedia.
I'm impressed by Wikipedia.
Let's jump into our next topic, Brad. Diet breaks.
Didn't we just basically talk about this?
Yeah, so we'll talk about them a little bit more. We'll go into detail on them since it kind of wrapped up nicely. Since we did talk about diet breaks and the and kind of reverse dieting, and if you jump up, so diet breaks. Didn't we just talk about this as a topic on the show or today?
Today.
Yeah, well, briefly, we touched on it. We can expand unless you have something else we want to talk about.
Saying, you were very clairvoyant.
I'm always clairvoyant. So I'm
gonna start calling you Miss Theo.
Oh my God, yes, perfect. So a diet break is it's something that's designed to give you a physiological and psychological break from dieting. I think that the psychological aspects for most people are the most important ones. And those can range from a 24-hour diet break to a 2-week diet break. The physiological evidence is, I believe it's pretty strong, but I think there is some evidence that it doesn't really have any benefit as well in a physiological sense, right?
Yes.
I've never seen you give such a short answer without cringing.
I'm learning.
So why is it just a begrudging yes?
So I just want to make sure I understood the question correctly.
It wasn't a question; it was just a statement.
Well, was there an implied question?
I was just asking your opinion if my statement was correct, I guess.
And your statement was?
evidence that diet breaks do help physiologically help,
Yes.
but there is some evidence that just says it's a net. It doesn't it doesn't hurt you, but it doesn't have any benefit. Or is that not true anymore?
Yes. So that's why I begrudgingly said yes.
Okay.
So
then yeah, correct me.
Yeah. No, I mean, so that is the case, right? A lot of it depends on. So part of the problem is the research that's been done on diet breaks is a little bit all over the board. The most famous study that's used to kind of support diet breaks is called the Matador study, right? That was a study where they basically did 2 weeks of dieting, 2 weeks of no dieting, 2 weeks of dieting, 2 weeks of no dieting, right? So they did intermittent diet breaks every 2 weeks. Now, I think it's pretty clear from that data, both from what the data that they collected and what we can interpret and postulate based on previous dietary studies, is diet breaks after 2 weeks of a caloric deficit are not going to do a whole lot from a physiological perspective. Like, you're not going to have massive and or meaningful metabolic adaptation after 2 weeks, right? So some of the physiological things of like hormones and NEATs and all that sort of stuff that occur from dieting, after 2 weeks, you're probably not going to see a huge benefit from diet breaks. But what we did see in that study was the diet breaks generally led to greater overall adherence to the weight loss phases of that diet. So the weight loss was actually the same, if not better. The data suggested weight loss was better amongst the 2 week like intermittent dieting approaches.
Okay, perfect. So that's and that's what I meant by there's evidence that it might not have that 2 week period. It might not be enough, right? You might need, and to me, taking that, if you're going to take a diet break that's over 2 weeks, you're at maintenance. That's what it is. Then you're at maintenance calories.
Yeah. And that's,
you're just done dieting.
Yeah. There's several ways to skin the cat, right? I mean, you can take 2 week caloric restriction chunks followed by 2 weeks of maintenance, and you can do that for 52 weeks, and you basically have dieted for 6 months over the course of the year. Or you just chunk all of it together in 6 months. It just depends on how you want to structure your plan.
Yeah, I agree. And there's, the biggest thing I think is and the most, probably in my opinion, the most important part is that psychological break. If and this is why communicating with a coach, when you work with them, communicating with them all the time about, things that are going on in your life, events and stuff like that is important. And this is one of the things that actually working with a coach shows you how to plan out. It's not difficult to say, okay, I know that my birthday, my spouse's birthday, and one of my kids' birthdays are all within 4 weeks of each other. We're going to have not only family parties, we're going to have we're going to have a night out with ourselves. We also have an anniversary in there. So I've been dieting for I'm going to plan this out. I've been dieting for 3 months. I'm going to diet intensely for 3 months. I'm going to take a month off and just live my life, do the best I can when I don't have events, and then go right back to it. And then again, we have summer vacation. We're going on a 2 week trip. I'm going to take another 2 week diet break then. And then I'm going to take another 2 week diet break between Christmas and New Year's. And I think that's something that people don't, they think, oh, I'm going off how do I stay on track over the holidays? Well, plan what you're doing. You know what day the holidays are. You know that, okay, I'm going to go to maintenance. We have 2 company parties to go to, 4 family members' houses to go to, plus our own. Just let's take December off. On the days when you are not doing something, be it maintenance. On the days when you are doing something, do your best to be around there, but enjoy yourself. And I think people just miss that.
Well, I think a lot of times people they're in a hurry, right? Like, let's just say you're like, oh, my goal is to lose 45 pounds by December of this year. Well, it's like, okay, well then what's the plan after that? Like, why is that the drop dead date? Like, it's great to set deadlines and goals. But I think, a lot of people, when they get in a rush, in a hurry to get somewhere, and they don't realize that there's also 40, 50, 60, 70 years of your life to live after you reach that goal. Like, you've got plenty of time. So if it's like, hey, I'm probably going to be, 2-3 weeks behind in hitting a specific scale weight, because I do have a vacation and I'm probably going to take a diet break, or I've got a month of just crazy travel and all sorts of events, that's like probably not going to be losing a lot of weight. You can kind of make that a little bit easier to navigate.
Yep, agreed. And on our questions, Latasha said, "How do you gauge when a diet break is needed from a fat loss deficit?" And I would say my answer to this, and Brad, you answer in a second. My answer would be when you are struggling to maintain your diet. If you are finding that you've been dieting for a while, in the beginning part, don't take a break. If it's been 3 months or more and you are struggling to stay on pace, you find yourself restarting every night or every other night, or you're fixated on food, then it's time to let's take a break with a hard restart date already set.
Yeah, I would say when adherence starts to fall off, if you notice like your sleep is getting poor, your recovery capacity from exercise is getting poor, if you stall in weight loss, those are all signs that like, hey, it's maybe time to just change it up. You look like
I agree. What?
You look like you're gonna laugh at me.
No.
Ha.
No, I'm just a happy-go-lucky guy, Brad.
It's because you have no beard anymore.
I know it's horrible. I feel like I'm 12.
I'd say 14.
Yeah,
I'll give you that.
Not good. So let's see. What other questions do we have in here? Dante said, "Is it bad if I eat too much peanut butter? I'm not over 75 grams of fat, not over 20 to 25 saturated fats, and I take omega-3s. As long as you're in your calories."
Yeah, I think you're fine. The only thing I would say is, peanut butter can be notoriously difficult to track, especially if you're not weighing it and you're just measuring it by the spoonful and like eyeballing it. So if you start to stall in some of your progress, that's generally one of the first things I tell people, like, hey, if you're eating quite a bit of peanut butter, like just make sure you're measuring it correctly.
Yeah, that's a huge one. The one thing I think was interesting about this is, so I have never been a peanut butter person, never. When I did my first bodybuilding show in 2015, when I you get fixated on food when you're dieting, especially ultra low. I got fixated on peanut butter, and that was right when all these flavored peanut butters, all the different types, started coming out. And it took me like a year where I would like go through this huge peanut butter phase, and then it just went away. And then when I dieted again, pretty hard, I did a bulk for probably a year and a half, and then when I dieted down in 2018, I again got fixated on peanut butter, and I was not in a hard deficit. It was a really mild, half a pound a week deficit. And I got fixated on peanut butter again, and I'm not dieting, and I have zero desire and zero peanut butter in my house. I wonder, is there like what, and it's common. I mean, I think you would agree that you see a lot of people dieting, like go nuts for peanut butter. And I don't know why that is.
Yeah, it's generally, I mean, I'm not a neurobiologist. I'm not an evolutionary biologist. So take what I'm about to say with giant grains of salt.
But you play one on a podcast.
But I could be so far off base
Yeah.
that someone will tell me I'm wrong. But I think some of that it may not be necessarily just peanut butter itself, but the body doesn't love to be in an energy deficit. So when you're in an energy deficit, your body will tend to gravitate towards high energy density foods, and your brain and your mouth know what's an energy dense food. Like there's a reason that when you consume like a high fat food, you know it's a high fat food. Like you have sensing mechanisms that will let your brain know that. So peanut butter is a very energy dense food. Like 2 tablespoons of peanut butter is like 200 calories, right? Whereas 2 apples is 200 calories. So your brain definitely knows those things. And I think you crave high energy density foods. And if you've had peanut butter before and you know that it's that, your body will probably start to crave that. That's my hippopotamus.
I like that. I like that hippopotamus. We should see if we can get an evolutionary biologist in here and answer that.
We should
find one right now.
You.
Okay. Yeah. People did not evolve from monkeys. We actually originated from gophers.
We should get Stefan on the show at some point.
Stefan, what the hell is his last name?
Guillenet.
Guillenet, yeah.
We
Yeah,
should get him on the show.
that'd be you'd have to lead. I don't think I think if anything I said to him, he would look at me like I was a kindergartner and just like pat me on the head and say "good boy." And so you would have to be the one to talk to him the entire time, and I could just sit here and try to understand what you guys are talking about.
I probably don't even know what he's talking about, to be honest.
Sarah said, wow, Sarah's got a long comment. Let's see if we can get around this. I've been in a calorie deficit for the majority of the last 18 months. Diet breaks are the only way that I can do this and still stay sane. For example, when COVID kicked off, I took a diet break just to take the pressure off and enable me to have one less thing to worry about. Once I felt in a better place, I got back to my calorie deficit and carried on where I left off without completely throwing in the towel because I wasn't able to cope. It wasn't able to cope with it all and all the other chaos in life at the same time, I assume.
Yes.
I think it cut off. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a diet break is that's in my opinion, that's the way to do it. You know, there's stress that we want to build up your tolerance and learn how to navigate around. And then there's chaos that we want you to focus on your life around. So it just depends on your situation. When COVID hit, I was able to actually diet. That was the easiest time for me to diet because it was, I worked, I had one thing to focus on. It was simple. Leanne said, I think some people do not realize they can take a diet break without guilt. They're either on a diet or they are off the rails, and it sets them up for such a negative relationship with food themselves.
Yeah. And I think that's a little bit of my comments of people give themselves too short a timeline, right? It's kind of like, imagine if you were trying to save all the money you needed for retirement in 1 year. Imagine if you were trying to save all the money you needed for retirement in 1 year.
I just wouldn't pay you.
Like, I mean, that's fair, but like that's an impossible task, right? And you're like, why do you need to put that arbitrary number on it when you have, I don't know, if you're my age, you have 30 plus more years to do it, or 4 more years plus to do it if you're trying to retire by the time you're 36. I just make up these arbitrary goals all the time, right? Yeah. So, I mean, so that's it's, and then you're like, okay, well, that seems a little bit crazy. But if you're like, hey, like I have a long time to do this, I can set up my plan accordingly. Like if I need to lose 60 pounds, okay, maybe I'll lose 20 in the next 6 months. And then, you know, I'll go on vacation and do a few things. And then I'll come back and I'll lose another 15 to 20. And then I'll, you know, go after another 15 to 20. Like those are also reasonable approaches. It's like, it would be very difficult for me to try to save all the money I need for retirement between now and December. I would have to probably do some illegal activities.
We can talk about those after the show.
Or I'd have to like build Instagram in my garage, right? And the Lord knows I can't do that. So, but if I'm like, hey, I'm going to do this over 30 years, I'm going to, you know, save X amount every month. Like those are reasonable approaches. And then that gives you the idea of like, oh, you know, like, hey, if I want to spend a little bit more money this month on this, and I'll save a little more next month, like that's a reasonable approach.
Yeah, your reasonable approach.
I would say I do not take a reasonable approach to most things.
You're like the most reasonable person I've ever met. Or maybe I'm just that not reasonable that you seem like the logical.
I am definitely the on the marshmallow test. I'm definitely the wait and have 2 marshmallows later kind of guy.
What is the marshmallow test?
You've never heard of that?
I think I have. Is that where the kid with the kids?
It's like you put a marshmallow in front of the kid. And you can say you can have 1 now, or if you wait an hour, you can have 2. And it's supposed to like predict people's success in life.
So I do remember that because I remember when I read it and I was like, well, I don't like marshmallows. So if that was me, I would just leave it, and then I would get the other marshmallow, and then I would sell them to somebody else for like $1.
Yeah.
So I would pass that. But simply because it's marshmallows. If somebody was like, here's a slice of pizza, I'd eat that, break down the wall.
Here's one pickle.
Oh, it'd be gone in 3 seconds. I could not.
Even if you could have a jar of pickles if you waited a half hour?
Yeah, probably not.
Oh my God.
No, I love pickles, man. I think an easier test when you get fast food in your car and you drive, when you get food in your car and you're driving home, do you take fries out of the bag or some of the food before you get home, or do you wait till you get home?
I have a rule. I'm allowed 1 fry.
Okay, that's I pace myself too. It is I'm allowed to reach into the bag twice. But yeah, I think that I think is the adult version of the marshmallow test.
Which, speaking of that, so I would say my fast food consumption is like once a month.
Really?
And it's usually like on a Friday when the Fridays my wife works, I'll there's a Wendy's like literally a half a mile from my house. So I'll go
Mhm.
get a 4 for $4 because it's like $8 for a full dinner for my wife
Yeah.
and I. And last time I went, I got home and my fries were half full.
Oh my God.
Could you imagine that? How
I would,
disappointing. Like, there's very few things in life you look forward to more than fast food French fries. And when they're halvesies, you're like, I don't know whether to like call them and complain about this, go burn the place down, or just move on with my life.
burn the place down. That's always
I opted with just move on with my life.
Somebody said, Sheila said, I don't think the test is quite the same, Jay, because the only reward is cold fries.
I mean, that's valid.
No, the reward is going home and eating with your family together versus in your car in isolation.
Overrated.
Fred,
Somebody asked us, what is the best way to send you questions or topics for other shows that have nothing to do with today's topic? Just ask us here. Things don't have to be on topic.
Yeah, if it's just a general question, you can ask it in here. You can make a post in the Facebook group, or if you're saying you would like us to talk about a topic, just send me an email, jay@macrosinc.net.
I think you should make it just j@macrosinc.net.
It actually both go to me.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm just gonna send all my emails to that from now on.
Don't, because then when I reply, they reply back from jay@macrosinc.net, and then they go into spam all the time.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, I learned that many years ago with a different domain.
Boo.
Yeah. So, Brad, I think
Yes.
that's it. Do you have any closing remarks for anybody watching, listening, or reading the subtitles on the YouTube broadcast?
I have a lot, to be honest.
Okay. What are your closing statements?
You need to go to macrosinc.net and you need to sign up for a coach. If you're looking for more information, go to NutriWiki.org. If you're not quite ready for a coach, but you want to start learning, go to macrosinc.net/ebook. If you would like to help us donate $10,000 to charity, go to macrosinc.net/YouTube. Click the subscribe button, which is right here. I just put my finger through my microphone mount. Right here.
But you don't need to point it out, because if they're watching YouTube with this, they don't need to go to macrosinc.net/YouTube. They're already here.
Well, I'm going to do whatever I want.
Okay.
Make sure you subscribe to the podcast at macrosinc.net/podcast. If you like to take a diet break, you can take a diet break. Do you notice I'm just clicking every banner on the way down?
Yeah.
If you're interested in working at Macros Inc., go to macrosinc.net/job-board. I need to update that in the next 24 hours because some positions have been filled, some have not been filled.
Coaching is always
Coaching is continually open, which if you'd like to become a coach, you can shortcut that page by going to macrosinc.net/become-a-coach. And if you want to read more about the article that we talked about today, go to macrosinc.net/NutriWiki/the truth about high fat diets, or NutriWiki.org and just search the truth about high fat diets.
I just realized why I've been crabby all morning. It's tax day.
Dude, I know. I put a check in the mail yesterday. It was very sad. So I'm going to need a raise today.
First time, I think, in my entire life, I filed my taxes in February.
I filed mine in February, but I did not put the tax check in until today.
Ooh.
Why?
No, I don't know. I'm just giving you a hard time.
I mean, they were like, hey, you don't have to pay it until July. And I was like, well, I'll just keep that in an interest-bearing account. And
I get it.
I think I have enough. I've accrued enough interest in this low interest rate times to buy a Jimmy John's.
Yeah.
Dude, I made $21 yesterday day trading. So I paid for lunch and dinner yesterday.
Such a baller, man. I don't know how people keep up with you. I think I spent probably $100 on food yesterday. So, we eat out a lot. We don't cook in my house. And when we do, it's like steak.
Steak.
Well, I mean, yesterday. So, what did I eat yesterday? I had steaks for dinner, hamburgers for lunch, and then
You got a lot of iron yesterday, big boy.
oh yeah, that's all you need. Iron and beef. All right, we're out. See you guys on the next
Friday.
episode on the podcast on Friday on the live macrosinc.net/YouTube, and you can watch the live ones. So that's it.
Same macro time.
Same macro channel. Oh my god, I wish I never would have said. Did I say that first or did you?
I don't know.
Whoever did should be beaten.
Well, we'll be tarred and feathered.
Hopefully. All right, guys. Thanks for watching.
Toodaloo.